What's up, everybody? I'm going to start this conversation by saying I am much of a different person than who I used to be, and I'm only getting better. So I'm hoping in 5 years, 10 years to be even more different than who I am today, but only for the better, only good changes. And not to sound cocky, but I feel like that's how we all should be, right? We all should be changing for the better. And that's what the fun part of life is. Being able to evolve, being able to grow. You know, you shouldn't be doing the same things in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years that you're doing today. And today you shouldn't be doing the same things that you were doing 20 years ago. That's stagnation. And if you are at a standstill, then what are you here for? You know, how boring must it be to talk about the same things every single day? You know, to do the same things every day, no new ideas, no new concepts. And sometimes it's difficult. When you are committed to radical evolution, sometimes it's difficult to keep friends, to keep relationships, because people want the same you to show up, you know, the person that they're used to. But what if in a millisecond you say, well, I just changed my belief system because my old belief system didn't serve me. And I realized that with new information, it gives me an opportunity to think in a different way, behave in a different way, and create a life that is going to be more fitting to this new belief system, right? And I would say the primary difference, because there's a lot, you know, I'm still me, but the primary difference is I've become very much more spiritual than I used to be. I was always spiritual, but I am extraordinarily spiritual. And always loved a good time, always loved a good party, always loved a good laugh, but I wasn't as spiritual as I am now. And when I tell you I'm about this life, like, I'm not faking, I'm not pretending when I say I am about this spiritual life. Like, I am a spiritual gangster. And if I could tell you, there's no better feeling than when you submit to the Almighty. Like, I've had a lot of fun, but when I tell you there's nothing better, there's nothing that tops this feeling of submission to the Almighty. There's no greater peace. And as much as I love a good time, when I say, I used to love to party. I really used to love to party. I used to love to go clubbing. I started hitting the clubs in middle school, and I've had a great time and partied in a lot of different cities and met some really cool people along the way. And there's nothing that I love to do more than laugh. I love a good joke. I love to laugh. I might turn on Pandora, put on some Paul Mooney, Dave Chappelle, some Cat Williams, just to laugh. And I've never really taken life or myself too seriously. That was kind of one of the gems that my father gave me. He said, the thing about life is never sweat the small stuff. And then he would nudge me and say, it's all small stuff. It is all small stuff. And I love my life, and I love my freedom. And I would say that probably out of the list of things that I could consider a turnoff, I mean, being a coward would probably be on top of it. I'm very turned off by a lack of bravery or a lack of courage in people. But right under that would be somebody who just takes himself, you know, way too seriously. It's very much a turnoff. Just the idea of building a life with someone who is so uptight. You got to walk on eggshells, you know, around them. They can't laugh, they can't joke. Everything is just so serious. And you can see it. It wears on people. You know, you have some people that are 50, they look 30. And it's just like, you know that they laugh a lot. You know that they have a light heart. You know that they forgive easily. because you can see it in their face. And then you got some people who look way older than they are. They're wrinkled and they look decrepit because they just take life too seriously, and all that stress and all of that worry and resentment and lack of forgiving, it physically takes a toll on them. They look old, and they look old and aged. And I'm not being an ageist. There's nothing wrong with getting old, but I'm just saying why. It's not exclusive to melanin. Why do some people look like hell, like life has dealt them hell, and they've ingested that hell and they wear it because they just take life too seriously. You can't say anything around them. You can't be yourself. Everything they're analyzing, it's just, they make life a drag. And so that's not the type of person I can be around. And when I say I'm really about this life, I'm really about this spiritual life. Like, when I say I'm really spiritual, like, I'm really like a spiritual gangster. And I really mean it. They nickname me Valley Girl Gangster. Because my friends make fun of me. They think I talk like a white girl, but, you know, there's not another side to me too. And I think that's part of the reason why I am so lighthearted and I like to laugh so much, because the other side that is serious, I don't mess around. And so yes, I consider myself a gangster, a spiritual one. And I'm really, really about the spiritual life. And so when people say, you know, be careful what you say, or you don't want people to know too much about you, they might be collecting information on you, data on you, you know, Big Brother's always listening. I say, well, what's gonna happen with the information? They're gonna know about me, and what's gonna happen. What next? What after that? So you collect data on me, you hear what I have to say, you hear my opinion, and then what's next? Maybe you use my talking points in your conversation. You know, you take parts of my creativity. I'm overflowing with creativity, so there's no shortage of creativity. So what, you take some of my ideas, you take some of my creativity. I don't worry about that. You know, I've said this before, I forget better things than you ever thought of. This is God-given. This is from the Almighty, the inspiration, the creativity that comes. I have too many ideas. I don't fear somebody taking one. And 9 times out of 10, if I put it out there, it's probably like the lowest one. Like, if I put an idea out there, it's probably like the smallest idea that I have. So I'm very well aware of my surroundings. And so people are like, oh, well, you say too much, you talk too much. I'm like, well, I feel like what I have to say and bring to the table is valuable. And I know that there's always going to be listening ears. Maybe somebody will be inspired to be more spiritual or a better person. Who knows? I don't live in fear. And, you know, I ask people, please do not project your fear-based consciousness on me. I don't keep quiet because people tell me not to. Like, I don't have things to hide. That's the armor of righteousness. You can live fearlessly because you don't have things to hide. You're petrified and you're scared of people hearing what you have to say and being revealing of yourself because you feel like you have things to hide. And that's living in captivity. That's fear-based consciousness. And we know that fear never resonates on the same frequency as higher vibrations like love and joy. Fear is an extremely low vibration. And it's a direct reflection to a lack of God consciousness, right? God gave us a mouth to talk, to praise him, to inspire, to motivate, and all these things. So if you're living in fear, that shows that you are spiritually lacking. Ain't nothing that the government can do that Allah is not going to will, that the Almighty is not going to will. I don't think when I say I'm really about the spiritual life that people, like, you don't just talk it, you really walk it. when you truly believe that you are spiritually protected and that the Most High has your back because you are righteous, you don't think twice about that type of stuff. It's not even like, what? Like, if I'm gonna go, it's gonna be my time to go because it's gonna be the Most High's call. Like, there's nothing that's going to go down on this planet in regards to me that is not his call. Like, I'm really a believer. And so back to my point about life. You know, it's always been a big party to me. And sometimes I've seen people actually get irritated by me, like they want me to take things more seriously, or they want me to take them more seriously, and I just don't. And I started partying early. You know, I was clubbing, like I said, in middle school, and I was having a lot of fun at the teenage clubs and all of that. Into college, I was still having fun. I was still partying. After college, I was still partying. I loved to party. But then one day it hit me, and I didn't feel the same way that I would feel when I would go dance and go club and things like that. Something had changed, and it seemed as if either I had changed or the people around me had changed. It seemed like the party became more about drinking for them and, you know, smoking and doing all the other stuff, rather than just having a good time. And to me, that was kind of lame. And as a former bartender, I know alcohol a lot. Like, I know alcohol very, very well. I know about spirits. I know about the distillation process. I know about, you know, fermenting. I know about grains. I know a lot about wines and liquors. And what I do know, you know, I could maybe even teach a class on mixology. That's how long I bartended. But what I really, really know about alcohol is it's a depressant. And because it's an intoxicant, think about intoxicant. The root word is toxic. And so is marijuana. And so I've watched people under the influence, you know, do things that would be really detrimental to them as far as just destroying relationships and, you know, cheating on people and just doing things that they wouldn't do if they were in their sober mind. And I analyzed it. I said, well, this is immediate gratification. You know that you might wake up with a hangover. But then again, even that, just to keep it 100% real, knowing alcohol, the more quality of the alcohol, you know, the higher end vodkas, you're not going to wake up with a huge hangover. Usually a hangover is H2O deprivation, and you might get a headache from it and things like that. But the higher quality and the more water, if you're simultaneously drinking alkaline water, you may not get that hangover. However, don't think that just because you don't get a hangover, it's not affecting you. And alcohol is addictive. I was watching people come to the bar and they were spending so much money at the bar. And, you know, I began to think, like, this is really not good. You know, and the more I was around it, I started thinking, like, this is really not a good thing. And I was a red wine girl. You know, I loved a crisp Malbec. I loved a good Cabernet. Always stayed away from Merlot, was never really my thing. Didn't quite like white wine, a little too sweet, but a nice dry Riesling would have been fine on a summer day. But all of that, as much as it's a part of our culture, I say you're better off without it. And I started to analyze it, you know, because the drinking crowd and the marijuana crowd are usually very different crowds. And as a musician, you know, I was always around people who drank and people who smoked. And it's a very different thing for someone who's drunk versus somebody who's smoked weed and got high. And frankly, after being at the bar for so long, bartending for so long, I'm like, to me, the people who smoke weed are by far the type of people, personality-wise, that I would want to hang out with. Just down to earth, real. I'm making a broad generalization, of course. There's a lot of people that smoke weed, but overall, the people that I was around, they just were very authentic people, very real, very down to earth, real cool, analytical, just, you know, some of the best people I've ever met, some of the coolest people I've ever met. And so I'm like, marijuana can't be bad if like a lot of cool people smoke it. But one thing I had to realize about this whole marijuana thing was, well, if you have all these things inside of you, then why do you need it? If you're naturally intelligent, you're naturally analytical, you're naturally creative, why do you need a stimulant? And the cost of it, I mean, it's not cheap. You can spend a lot of money on marijuana, and the more that you smoke marijuana, the more marijuana it's going to take for you to reach that high. And so you might have been able to get off with just spending $10 on a bag of weed, but over time, that small quantity is going to feel like nothing. You're not going to feel high. You're going to want to smoke more and more and more, and your money is just literally just going down the drain. Like, you're spending a lot of money on weed, like a lot of money. And the thing about marijuana is it can be a comfortable fit into somebody's life who's like me, who doesn't really take things too seriously. And when you're around people who do, they want to influence you to try to take things too seriously. And so I think a lot of people who use marijuana are escaping that. You know, you laugh and you're more like lighthearted about life. And it's kind of an escapism to like the very serious side of life. But escapism, the problems are still there, right? So we try to escape from these problems, but they're still, whatever you're trying to escape from, after you smoke, the problems are still going to be there. And I was gonna make this video and say, you know, I would recommend marijuana tea, because again, as a health and wellness advocate, I'm constantly thinking about your skin and your internal organs and how smoking affects it. Now, I know that some people use different things in like a Philly blunt, or like, you know, things that have like heavy carcinogens inside of them to smoke. There are natural rolling papers. And so some people think, oh, well, you know, it's a plant, and if I'm using a natural rolling paper, it doesn't have an adverse effect on me, but it does. Because the minute that you light it, the chemical components change and you're inhaling it. And especially as a vocalist, it's going to ruin your vocal cords. It's going to ruin your lungs. It's going to contribute to a lack of oxygen. So it's just not, to me, the way to consume it. I'd say the most ideal way to consume it would be a marijuana tea. But even that, I don't think that right now is the time to be sedated. And like I said, I'm not going to tell people how they should feel. I'm not going to tell people what their disposition should be, because I think that that's a little bit too much control. No, right now you have to feel angry. No, right now you have to feel this. No, that's a little bit too much control. But I will say that when you escape, your lack of awareness is not going to serve you. And so you can pretend, you could smoke your blunt and pretend like we're not at a legitimate race war, but we really are. Like, there's so many things that are being pulled over our eyes politically by our government, you know, and to me, it didn't seem, the more that I thought about it with a very clear head, I'm like, why? You know, I've been living for a minute, and they never legalized marijuana as much as marijuana advocates have been trying to get that pushed. Why, as of lately, did they decide that they were going to legalize it? Well, one, of course, we live in a capitalistic society, so as long as government can make money off of it, they're going to figure that out. But two, I think that they deliberately wanted people sedated on a mass scale so they could pull the wool over our eyes. for a lot of the things that they're planning to do. This COVID thing is wow. It looks like straight out of a science fiction movie, the fact that we're walking around with masks on. Who would have thought that this would be our reality, right? And then now, like as much as we were born free, right? Like the Almighty made us born free to do what we want, free to think how we want, free to say what we want, free to go where we want, free to love who we want, but free to go where we want, right? It is a human rights violation that we have a travel ban right now. Like they're telling you where you can and cannot go. You know what I'm saying? And why does the government feel like they could do something like that? Like create such an imposition and babysit people and treat us like children, where they're literally telling us as adults where we can and cannot go. And why is there not more of an outrage among the people than there is? Because people are sedated by marijuana, by pills, by prescriptions, and all of these things. And again, I got to be balanced about this conversation. If you have an infection and you have, amoxicillin or penicillin or whatever, it's not the best thing to do, but you may have to use an antibiotic. You know what I'm saying? We do live in 2021. We live in a contemporary society, but I always want you to be thinking about long-term effects. So you may pop an antibiotic, but always while you have that antibiotic to get rid of that infection, think about, okay, I'm going to do my research. Is there a natural way that I can handle this? Is there a better way that's not going to have adverse side effects, Because again, when we talk about life as being a party, we want to be here for a long time and we want to be here for a good time. And people that are 60 where your jaw drops like you are not 60 years old. And it's a reflection of the way that they live life, how they handle life, how they take care of themselves. And so with this theme of life being an ever-long party and us wanting to operate at our optimal level, to think the clearest, think the sharpest, look the best, be the most fit, and all of these things, be in our right minds, that is strictly tied into how we take care of ourselves. And so to me, in order for us to get to where we need to go, the number one thing that has to go is this drug culture. We have to get rid of the marijuana. We got to get rid of the alcohol. We got to get rid of the pill popping. We got to get rid of it. That's number one. And I'm going to continue to talk about ways that you can wean yourself off. I had already mentioned the fact that it only takes, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to gain or get rid of any habit. So if you can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to let drinking beers go for 30 days. I guarantee you, not only are you going to feel better, but you're not even going to have a craving to have a drink after 30 days. And everything, prescription pills and all of those things, begin to do your research on natural remedies. And one more point. So I'm not understanding, the reason why I'm telling you my backstory is because I want you to know, I'm not coming from a Mormon, restrictive background where, I've never experienced life before. I know that there's pleasure in these things. I know how many times I had, a good time with friends having some wine. I know that, people are going to festivals, amazing festivals, and they're, smoking a blunt and they're having a great time. I'm not taking that into consideration. These things are pleasurable. Sex. I've told people, stop having sex without love. But I would be lying to your face right now to say that sex is not a good time. It's probably the most pleasurable thing on earth. It's amazing. We all love sex, not just men, women too. But the whole idea of longevity, long lasting. So this idea of euphoria without the hangover, this idea of love making without the pain. And I've never been married before, but I often think about how amazing it's going to feel to make love to my husband, because you know that the person that you are making love to, you love them and they love you. And it's not just the pleasure of it, just the lower nature of it. It's also like the full experience where you guys are simultaneously connecting mentally, and then your hearts are connecting, and then your souls are making love also, in addition to you feeling pleasure all over your body. That's the only type of love that I want. That's the only type of sex that I want. Because I'm getting to the point of life where it's quality over quantity. I'd rather eat something that's really good, really tasty, and really good for me than eat a lot of things that aren't, you know? I'd rather have only one friend or two friends than a bunch of friends that aren't quality. And so that comes down to making love too. You know, you don't know what you're missing until you make love to somebody that you really love. And the reason why I say marriage is because, like, the other components of it, rather than just like getting out of bed and just, you know, not knowing if that person's gonna call you to check on you and things like that. Like, the idea of, like, as a man, you know, having a woman that you make love to, and like she knows every single spot on your body that brings you pleasure. Like, she knows you that well. She knows what you like, what you don't like. She knows how to make love to you. She knows how to talk to you. And then after, you know, she's making sure that you're on time for work and that you look right, you know, like, and that you're well fed, and vice versa. You know, a man that knows your whole body and he knows how to bring you to a pleasurable state in a lot of different ways because he cares. It's not just a matter of him getting off. He actually cares about your experience. And then making sure afterwards, like a husband would do, like, you're good, you know, like, baby, make sure that all the business that you got to handle for the day, you're going to handle, like, somebody who really, truly cares, you know what I'm saying? It's just so much better. And so I think that it's worth the wait. And so I apply that same train of thought to drugs and alcohol. You know, that temporary gratification, it burns out quickly. And you want to be able to enjoy life, the long-lasting party of life, for as many years as you're here. So whoever needed to hear this, you know, I want to continue to post things about the benefits of not drinking, not smoking, not doing any of that stuff. Until next time, IG. Love you guys. Peace.